Welcome to the show. I'm Doug Gottlieb in for Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you why Dak Prescott won't have a happy Thanksgiving.
And I'm Colin Cowherd, and I'll tell you why Jim Harbaugh at Michigan may never go back to the NFL. Speak for yourself on a Wednesday. Pre-Thanksgiving starts right now, and we are loaded today.
Hello and welcome. We are joined by Fox NBA analyst Chris Broussard, the founder of The Big Lead, who co-hosted with me yesterday, Jason McIntyre and Colin. The ship is still sailing.
It is.
It is still sailing.
Upright, still moving.
Barely. Let's start here in Los Angeles, where Lavar Ball took some time out of his ongoing slap fight with President Trump to take some shots at Lonzo's coaches, saying the Lakers staff is, quote, too soft on his son. Here's his son's coach, Luke Walton's reaction.
We're not concerned with what parents think of how we're coaching the team. We're concerned with the team and what's best for our team and how we can continue to get better.
I love the use of the word parents, right? It's like you signed the permission slip, and decided to play basketball. We're good here. All right, Colin, should the Lakers care about Lavar calling out their coaching staff?
No, because I think they knew what they were getting into. Trump on the campaign trail is Trump president. The Kardashians 15 years ago are the Kardashians today. If you're loud at 50, you're loud at 51. This is not just about Lavar building his brand. And Lavar's punching up at Nike. He punched up at the president. He punches up at the Lakers. He's building his brand. This is about the Lakers rebuilding their brand. Outside of the Sixers' worst record in the league in 2013. You live here, I live here, we live here. Dodgers good, USC good, Angels okay, Rams in town. The Lakers knew what they were getting into, and part of it was, we're going to get talked about, and frankly, after LeBron and maybe the Warriors, aren't they the third talking point in the league right now?
I don't think there's any question that they are. I also think, though, that it's fair to point out that Lavar, I'm sure, promised Magic Johnson that he would not be a problem. He said, I'm not going to come to the facility for practice, and he hasn't been there. So if that's the case, you can't be critical of the coaching staff because they haven't been critical of him. You haven't heard them say, hey, man, you're the one who said, I coached my son. And I think privately they must feel like he kind of hasn't been coached before. He hasn't played pick and roll basketball, right? Like the things you,
He can't shoot.
He can't. He shoots from the wrong side of his face. He can't finish, and he doesn't know how to play pick and roll, which is the number one thing you need to do to play point guard in the NBA. So they haven't been critical of him. Why is he being critical of them? Even if you read the full context, and he's actually asking them to push his son more.
See, that's what I was going to say. I agree with you that it looks like Lonzo hasn't been coached very well, all right, from his dad. However, if you read that entire article in Bleacher Report, I believe he's really not criticizing the coaching staff. He's saying, you know, go harder at him. You know, almost giving him permission. I hate to use that term because they don't need it, but giving him permission to yell at his son, to push his son, to be critical of his son so he gets better. Here's the problem. We're in a soundbite era.
Yeah.
And most people, including the Lakers players, probably aren't going to read the full context of the article.
Right.
And all they see is he's calling the coaching staff soft. So that's a problem. But I will say this. I think the best thing for the Lakers to do, ignore it. Because if you get in a back and forth with him,
it's just
going to give it life, more life. Ignore it. It'll go away until he does the next thing.
I think soundbite era was the perfect phrase, Chris. We've never seen this in team sports, guys. We've seen it in individual sports with the Williamses and Tiger Woods, never in team sports. And the Lakers, this is an important story, guys, because this is not stopping. As you said, you know, Bleacher Report's reaching out to Lavar Ball. Every media outlet knows Lavar Ball clicks, Lavar Ball videos. They trend on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. People are looking to get Lavar to talk. The Lakers, like you said, I would say totally ignore it. It's going to take a lot of willpower because you know what Lavar Ball wants, right? He wants a war of words with Magic Johnson, the face of the Lakers, the #1 Laker of all time, one of the best players in NBA history. He would love nothing more than to go toe-to-toe with Magic Johnson.
You know, I also think, though, that Lavar Ball misunderstands how they're coaching his son. He thinks they need to be more heavy-handed, more pushing him. They're concerned about his confidence because he looked like a player who was lacking confidence, especially after they're playing better with him not on the floor in the fourth quarter. The way in which they're coaching him is simply, if he's not playing well, They're using Jordan Clarkson as their point guard. They're adjusting their lineup. And you look, there's an old coaching expression. There's an interesting relationship between your butt and your brain. You sit on your butt, and all of a sudden your brain starts to work. Yeah. That's how they're coaching him, because you can't be heavy-handed. This is not AAU ball. You can't dog cuss a guy. This isn't college basketball where you dog cuss a guy. This is the NBA. You treat him like men, and the way they've decided to treat him as a young point guard is, when he's not playing well, sit over there and watch somebody else play.
Yeah, I mean, when I go back to the whole Lavar Lonzo thing, I'm going to give the Lakers some credit. I had Kareem on the show today. Playing in Los Angeles is just different. I just don't believe Rob Pelinka, smart guy, Magic Johnson, smart guy. I know Jeannie, not Jim Bush. She's bright, smart. They knew this was going to be, they knew this was the Kardashian city, the Kardashian era. I think they knew all this. I think the surprise is the passive nature of Lonzo.
That's a great point.
That part, I think they're like, I think there's real concern in their camp. Now, you're connected to him, but I think there's real concern on the passivity, if that's a word, of Lonzo.
The question is, are they misreading the passivity to think, like you said, they can't go off on him? I'm with you. Most players in today's NBA, you can't go off on. I've heard stories of players crying when the coach goes off on them. Yeah. They're not used to it today. Lonzo may be used to it. His dad, I think, for all the praise publicly, I think privately his dad was on him like, you got to do this, you got to do that, you can get better at this. He may be used to getting yelled at, and so maybe he can take positively to that.
I'll be honest, like my dad was my coach. He's a former college coach. That's how he coached me, and it was hard for other people to coach me. So I do understand. I completely understand that. They are concerned. You have to be concerned. Not just the passive nature and that he hot potatoes the basketball at times, getting rid of it too quickly, but also that he's just not an alpha.
He's not.
Right?
He's not.
And I think what happened was you see him in high school, and his teams won in high school. And you see the braggadocious nature of his dad, and you think that must be how they... And then you meet the kid, you're like, man, he's a great kid. Like, I'd want him to date my daughter type kid. And then you see him at UCLA, and he handled everything so well. But it's different in the NBA. Like, you got to be a leader of men. You got to be a give me the ball, get out of the way, I'm going to make a play. And sometimes it's just earth to Zoe. You going to take over? You going to play? Like, first 6 seconds and last 6 seconds of the shot clock, this is your time to shine. And he seems to sometimes not want it.
Is Luke lying when he says the players love him? And, you know, I've never seen, he said, I've rarely seen a rookie that players
love him because he passes the ball. That doesn't mean he's great. Players like a...
No, but that's a big thing if they love you because you share the ball. I'm wondering, is that overstated by Luke?
No, I don't think it is. But players also, while players know, sometimes they still don't really know what's good for them, right? Like,
exactly.
Like every two guard thinks they're open every time. But that doesn't mean you pass it to them every time. Sometimes you got to be the Chris Paul. You got to be like, no. We're going to do it my way.
Get a balance.
Hi, guys. Colin Cowherd here. Before the show moves along, I wanted to talk to you about Freshly. So you've tried all the meal kits out there. 30 minutes turns into 60, and all of a sudden you realize you're actually paying to do all the work. With Freshly, those days are over. It's a weekly prepared meal service that delivers fresh, never frozen, 100% all-natural meals. Developed by their team of chefs and nutritionists. They're fully cooked. All you have to do, heat them up. Each meal ready in only 3 minutes. No more worrying about what's for dinner. No shopping, no chopping, no cleanup. Also, no artificial ingredients, preservatives, or added sugar. Delivery and takeout places are hit and miss. Why run the risk when you can have guaranteed quality meals with Freshly? Freshly makes it easy, no dishes to worry about. Be happy to get back an hour every day. Try Freshly today. Get $40 off your first 2 deliveries. Just go to freshly.com/FoxSports. That's 6 meals for only $39 for 2 weeks. It's Freshly's best offer ever. Only valid for a limited time. Head to freshly.com/FoxSports or enter the code FoxSports at checkout. Shipping is always free. How cool is that? Now let's get back to the show.
To Oklahoma City, where the new look Thunder off to a rocky start. Doesn't get any easier tonight. Here come the Warriors. OK3 of Westbrook, Paul George, and Melo. It's not the fact they're just 7-9. They're 2-8 against the West. All right, Duggar, you think the Thunder going to struggle all year?
I think this will be. I don't think this will be fun. Okay, now look, the reason that they lost a 23-point lead and a 19-point lead is their bench is crummy.
Yes.
And they had to raid their bench in order to trade for Paul George and to trade for Carmelo Anthony, right? Like, okay, so say Victor Oladipo is a starter, and Sabonis is starter bench guy. All right, so Sabonis is gone, and then Doug McDermott is gone. That would have been their 6th and 7th man, and now their bench suffers greatly.
Yeah.
But to me, I think part of it's their bench, and part of it is the fact that they're working through playing together for the first time, and part of it is, hey, Melo's hard to play with, man.
Yep.
He just is.
He is.
I told Colin today on his show, people say that he's not a versatile defender. That's not true. He can't guard any position.
You're gonna blame very versatile. Doug, you're going to blame the guy who's been there for 15 minutes? He hasn't unpacked his wardrobe in Oklahoma City. Come on. This is about Russell Westbrook, guys. That's what it is. He has not changed his spots. So they say it, a leopard doesn't change his spots. Russell Westbrook, they are last in the NBA in passes, Oklahoma City, okay? They are first in isolation plays. You know what they're saying? They got 2 Hall of Famers now in Paul George, right, and Carmelo Anthony, and nothing has changed.
You mean in Russell Westbrook?
Oh, Russell Westbrook. Listen, I know you love Russell.
Paul George.
He's not a Hall of Famer?
Paul George is a Hall of Famer?
Exactly. Can
Paul
you slow
George
down?
is trending that way, yes. Russell Westbrook
And Westbrook's not.
Paul George
Russell
is trending
Westbrook
on Twitter.
is going to the Hall of Fame. He's the leader of the team, Chris. He's got to take control of this team. They are 0-7. 0-7 in games decided by 3 points or less in the final 3 minutes. This team, Russell Westbrook's the problem in Oklahoma City.
Can I just say this, though, is that there are players, this is the number I look at. I don't care that they're 7 and 9. And I don't even care about all the numbers, his points per game are down. The number that I look at is Westbrook's free throw shooting has plummeted. That's up here.
Yeah, did they tell him, hey, we want you to work with Andre Robertson on free throw shooting? And he ended up shooting like Andre Robertson?
You know what that tells me is? What that tells me is it's a mental thing.
No question.
He's struggling with, okay, I'm coming down the floor. I didn't give it to Melo. I gave it to Paul 2 possessions. I got to take a shot. He's overthinking and overanalyzing.
And he's not really a thinking man's player. He's a reaction.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're right. He is now thinking, and he does historically. But to your point, he is now overthinking, because I do believe he's an instinctive player, and he's not playing instinctively.
I think they'll get it together. They won't be Golden State, but I think they'll get to a point where they certainly make the playoffs and maybe finish in the middle of the Western Conference playoff race. They may have to do this. Bring Melo off the bench. And we've talked about this before.
Oh, boy.
No, seriously. Like,
no, I agree with you.
We said this yesterday.
Because Paul George and Westbrook's numbers are much better when Melo's not on the floor.
Yeah.
And Melo, look, you're in your 15th year. I'm sorry, you haven't won anything. We know you're a Hall of Famer. At 15th year, you should be able to accept coming off the bench. He still could get 17, 18
so hold
points.
on, Chris, you are, this is...
He's not getting another max deal.
Listen to me.
He shouldn't worry about what it looks like.
There is not a soul on this set, or will sit on this set, that will disagree with you. This is the NBA and Carmelo Anthony. Who's going to have that discussion with him? Billy Donovan's going to go in and go like,
is there anybody in the NBA, front offices, coaches, that will back Melo on this? If Melo goes off, I'm not coming off the bench, who is going to say that he's right for doing it? Players will, but coaches and GMs will know. No,
it's like one of the things that makes Larry Fitzgerald an all-time great is most wide receivers, they don't want to be inside, right? You don't want to be moved around. Put me out wide, like Des Bryant. Like, he'll go down going out wide, where the truth is, if Des Bryant was as smart as Larry Fitzgerald, put me in slot where I'm going against an inferior defender, which is the same thing as Carmelo Anthony, right? Bring me off the bench, I'm playing against bench dudes.
It strengthens their bench.
Right, and he can get as many shots as he wants. Like, nobody's going to just put defenders. I totally understand. The problem is the ego of Carmelo.
Oh, it's massive.
And the ego of Carmelo and the way he's always done things. You said Leopard never changed his spots. It's the same thing with Melo. And I'm telling you guys, this is the best recruiting tool for the Lakers, is that Paul George with Russell Westbrook, I'm sure he'd be completely happy. But now, like, man, I got to play with Melo for at least another year.
But it's not about Melo, guys. It's about Russell Westbrook, who I believe is now the highest paid player in the league. They gave him a long-term contract to stay in OKC. Hey, you want a supporting cast? Work with your teammates. Get them involved. We saw LeBron in the Heat. Dwayne Wade, those guys adjusted their game. Chris Bosh, they all adjusted.
After a year.
These
guys have had
Russell Westbrook only has a couple months. Now he's having a career worst in shooting percentage. Like you said, the free throws are down. He's not getting to the line.
Can I just...
Russell Westbrook needs to clean up his act if he wants to fix his team.
Can I just argue the analytics...
Come on. Clean up his act.
Exactly.
All right, okay.
He's almost averaging a triple-double.
Guys, this was never going to work analytically. They're all ISO acts that don't shoot threes. Listen, We know why they did this. Oklahoma City's a small market.
Right. This is their only chance to get these type of
They
players
had to keep
Russell
Westbrook. So they're like, Paul, this and that. Bottom line, this was never going to work.
You couldn't be more right. On the other hand, they were also an ISO team when Durant and Westbrook nearly got to the finals.
Yeah, but Durant can hit a three.
And listen, if you remember that season, they were disappointing most of the year. They were losing close games most of the year. They were losing leads in the second half, much like these games, and they figured it out around the playoffs. They beat the Spurs, and they were up 3 games to 1 of the Warriors. I don't think it'll be that good a team. I do think it'll chase Paul George off because season-wise it just becomes heavy. But I do think that, look, they got 3 dudes that can get buckets. And when you get to the end of the season, when you have guys, they award wins to teams that have more points than the others, and I just think they have more weaponry than enough teams. I'm with Chris. I don't think they'll be great, but I think they'll be far better as the season goes on.
Here's what I'll give you, McIntyre, about Westbrook. When the 1 year Melo did get past the first round, or this one of the 2 years, conference finals, Chauncey Billups was the point guard. I talked to Chauncey about this. He was like, look, Melo, I told Melo where to go. I told Melo at times, you're not getting the ball in this possession. No, I'm going here. And Westbrook is not that guy. Even though he's an alpha in terms of the way he plays, he's not going to vocally jump on guys and direct them and all that.
Got to be a quarterback.
And that's where Colin's right. That's where Colin's right now. He's got to think those things, and it takes away from who he is.
Hey guys, Jason McIntyre here with a quick word about an exciting new project here at Fox. Executive produced by LeBron James, 89 Blocks is the first film from Fox Sports' new documentary series entitled Magnify. 89 Blocks is a story about the East St. Louis Flyers high school football team, but it goes far beyond the lines of the field. It's an in-depth look at a community on the edge and the enduring spirit of its people to continue following their dreams. Watch 89 Blocks this Sunday afternoon, November 26th on Fox. Check your local listings.
Welcome back. We're joined now by Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson, Super Bowl champ Eric Davis. Let's move to Dallas, where the Cowboys host the Chargers. This is a really good game in their annual Thanksgiving Day game tomorrow. A lot on the line. Dak Prescott and company will be looking to bounce back from that drubbing by the Eagles Sunday night, which saw Dak turn it over 4 times on offense. The offense scored just 9 points. Here's what the quarterback on tomorrow's game, what it means for Dallas.
It's going to show the character of our team, and we've got the choice to go 11-5 right now, or 5-11, or anything in between. So it's about us coming in and coming to work every day, show the character and the fight that we have to be 11-5.
All right, Gottlieb, do you expect Dak to bounce back against that Charger pass rush tomorrow?
I don't. You mentioned the Charger pass rush, one of the least discussed and most impressive pass rushes in all of football.
Yep.
I know everybody likes to talk about Joey Bosa, but Melvin Ingram's been one of those few players in the NFL where you give him a big check in the offseason, and he's actually way better than you even thought after giving him that check. Right. He'll be under duress. I don't believe in their ability to run the football, to have balance. I don't love their skill position players if you don't have to put an extra player in the box without Ezekiel Elliott. Will it be better with Tyron Smith? As he's questionable, which usually means he'll play? Sure, best left tackle in football back, you'll be better. But will they be good? I don't think so. And frankly, the Chargers had a bye this week. I mean, they got 5 interceptions from Nathan Peterman. He was handing them out like Oprah hands out cars. And you get an interception, and you get an interception, and you get an interception.
Right.
So they shut it down. They had 37 points at half. They shut it down. They're healthy, rested, whereas the Cowboys took a bludgeoning, took a beating. You talk about this all the time in your show. The week after playing Alabama, it wears you out. The week after playing those Philadelphia Eagles, I think the Cowboys, this is a tough, short week. I don't think they'll be that much better against a Charger team that could still make the playoffs.
I think there's a difference. I think Dak is a franchise quarterback who can run at a high level in offense. I think Carson Wentz can create an offense. Last year I called him Dak and Dunk. It was a lot of underneath stuff. Last year he was a savior. Our expectations. Now he's a star. The truth is, I still think he's more savior than star. I think he can run an offense at a high level. But when your left tackle's hobbled, when Dez can't separate, when your tight end's 30-something, when you don't have Zeke, I don't think Dak, nothing against the 4th round, I don't think he's built to carry an offense against the pass rush like that. I don't.
Now look at all the things that you just listed with the tackle, and you're talking about, not having your running, Zeke not being there, all the issues within the offense. We're asking the wrong question. Can Prescott bounce back? This is coaching. I'm going to go right back to Jason Garrett. When you have those pieces that aren't there, you have to find a way to scheme around it and put some other things in place to help your quarterback. And we saw the first week, you didn't even think about trying to find a way to block when Smith is gone. They didn't even think about it. They didn't adjust the game plan. They have to make some adjustments. Dak is going to do what Dak does. So with that running game, he's throwing for over 200 yards and getting the touchdowns. Without that running game, he's this guy. Okay? You have to make some adjustments from the coaching standpoint. Dak is a good player. He's a solid player.
Exactly
what you're.
But he's not a Maserati here. He's not creating.
I'm not going to say that he's not, because we've seen him make some Maserati type plays. But that also, it's in the confines of the offense, and that's what you don't have right now. Jason Garrett and company on that offensive side of the ball have to figure out a way to do a better job scheming.
Last year, Dak Prescott was a Ferrari. Everybody was all revved up about him. And I think he's still that Ferrari. He just doesn't have the weapons. You look at Carson Wentz over at the Eagles, they have a lot of weapons. They have Alshon Jeffries. They have a running game. They have a defense. They have one of the best offensive lines in football. I mean, so they have he has a lot more weapons over there. I think people have a tendency when you have a bad game, especially a quarterback, is everything okay? Is it time to panic? It's a bad game. It happens. And you're right about the receiving corps. They don't have the receivers that can get separation. Dez Bryant is not that guy. I said it earlier. Maybe he should go inside. Because I think he hurts his football team. Dak sometimes tries to get the ball to him too much.
Of course.
So
big personality.
So for sure.
Couldn't we argue though? They're kind of where we thought they would be. Virtually everybody said they're going to pull back this year. The schedule's tougher. Well, they're 5-5 through 10.
Well, plus, look, they don't have Ezekiel Elliott.
Exactly.
That changes everything.
He's good in all three phases of being a running back, right? Run it, catch it, and pass protection. That's a huge loss. Plus, it brings a guy into the box. You have to respect it, which creates more openings for Dez Bryant.
And Cole Beasley and everyone else.
And everybody else. It completely, that offense was highly leveraged on the offensive line play, specifically Tyron Smith, who's the best in the game in his position, and the running back, who's arguably the best in his game in his position. You lose both those two, or this week one, it's the same reason their defense. You love their defense early in the season, and now all of a sudden you can run against their defense. What's the difference? It's built around having Sean Lee. Still have a dynamic pass rush, but it's a lot better when you have the focal point of that defense specifically stopping the run.
It's really an interesting game tomorrow. The Chargers are 4-6. They lose, they're out. But if they win, it's interesting to see who they play. Similarly with Dallas, if they win, it's a Chargers -1, so it's a coin flip. If Dallas wins this game and you start looking at their schedule,
they're in the hunt.
Yeah.
And remember, their last game's against Philly, who could have a 4-game lead.
And might shut it down. So this really, if they're 6-5 Monday, we may just say, or by the way, 6-5 tomorrow, we may feel differently about the Cowboys. And we may actually look differently about the Chargers. The Chargers should have won 3 or 4 other games if they had a competent kicking game. If they weren't the Chargers and found ways to lose games
no, it's true.
that
they outplayed Jacksonville. I watched
the rest of the division is helping them too.
Denver, Jacksonville, heck, Kansas City, they shut down back when Kansas City had a good offense. They simply, Philip Rivers turned the ball over too much. Welcome back, Doug Gottlieb in for Jason Whitlock, Eric Davis, Jason McIntyre back with us. Let's move, men, to college football, where according to a report from our own Brady Quinn, Michigan is working on a lifetime contract for Jim Harbaugh. Now, Harbaugh arrived in Ann Arbor with a lot of hype, but he has yet to win the Big Ten, make the playoff, or even beat Ohio State, though he'll get another chance this Saturday, which is on Fox. Watch it. All right. Colin, there's a lot of speculation that Harbaugh could make an NFL comeback soon. Should he accept this lifetime contract?
This is not the Supreme Court. I would say no. Lifetimes are a long time. The only thing I thought about today on this story was Jim is so driven. Generally, the way it works, you hit 45, 50, we all pull back. Testosterone comes down a little bit. You're not as crazy or frenzied. If Jim signs a lifetime contract, does it bring him down a little and make him easier to work with, easier to hold on to his coaches? He has always been so driven. What's the next thing? What's the next job? What's the next quarter? What's the next quarterback? If Jim signs this, does Jim go, okay, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And does he exhale and does he lighten up? Because I think we all think he's a good coach, and we all wonder, how long can you work around Jim Harbaugh? They couldn't wait to get him out of Stanford, and he turned the program from Buddy Tevens to beating USC at the Coliseum. So there is part of me that thinks this would be an exhale moment for Jim that would be good for Jim in the program.
Why do you think they do it?
Recruiting.
That's it. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is they've obviously run into recruits who say, yeah, I love it, but man, they're talking about Jim Harbaugh to reunite with Andrew Luck, or Jim Harbaugh to fix this team or to fix that team, and this eliminates any of that discussion. And frankly, Kirk Ferentz did this last year. He signed a 10-year extension with the University of Iowa. And so it's saying Kirk Ferentz is going to be our coach until he decides to not be our coach. I think it all makes sense. I don't think he fits in the pros, because in the pros, with the exception of Belichick, it's all about the players, not about the coach. And in college, it's about the coach. And so he can do it his way. I think it eventually will work there as soon as they figure out the quarterback position.
Yeah.
And I think this is a genius way to stop the two things which derail a season in college football: the hot seat, and you're going to leave for the NFL. This would quash any of those rumors.
No, it wouldn't. It'd be a great thing for Jim. Okay, lifetime contract, that's great. That's for the lifetime that you decide to be the coach. If someone in the NFL offers him the right gig, he's going to take it. And that's not going to change. So as far as the recruiting standpoint, you're right. You can say that he's going to be here for a lifetime. Jim he's not going to exhale if he gets a lifetime contract. He's still going to attack that day. And then he's going to do the same thing the next day. He doesn't look that far down the road. That much I know about him, and I don't think that's going to change just simply because he has that contract. Hey, if you want to give him the money, he's going to take the money, but he's also going to take somebody else's money if they offer him a pro gig.
I'm with Eric here. This feels like such an antiquated notion, doesn't it? Like something from the 60s. Hey, you'll work here for your life. You know, my dad worked the same job in the government for his entire life. And, you know, my friends' dads growing up, they had one job. We're now upwardly mobile, guys. Everybody's technology, jobs, opportunities opening up, people moving every 3, 4, 5 years. You guys just got here. Right. I just got here. And Eric just got to Fox. Like, I just can't imagine the idea of anybody staying in the same job for like 30 years.
It's the Midwest, okay? We're in California, okay? And we have a different perspective than they have in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Now, Ann Arbor itself...
Hold on. You say that like Jim Harbaugh has never been anywhere but Michigan.
No. I'm not. I'm talking about who this is a sale to. This is not a sale to me and you. This is a sale to recruits, parents in the Midwest. And they're saying, hey, look, while everybody else is moving, one thing you can count on is Jim Harbaugh is going to be on those sidelines in Ann Arbor.
Well, I mean, it sounds great. It's just not realistic.
Now, he's also
he's not going to stay.
He's making $9 million a year. There's just not that many gigs in the NFL. They're going to pay Jim Harbaugh more than $9 million a year, and I would expect there to be a bump if it's a lifetime contract as well.
How about this? He just got beat by Wisconsin, and he knows he's going to get beat by Ohio State. It's a preemptive move optically, so the media is not like, hey, well, he's here for life.
Well, I do think it's funny. We talked about this yesterday on the show, right, Jason, where we're talking about the Atlanta Falcons, where Julio Jones said they got their swagger back. Well, if you have to say you have your swagger back, it means you must have lost your swagger. Right?
Yeah.
So maybe this is Michigan admitting that they're having a problem with the possibility of losing Harbaugh because he hasn't been able to go over that hump, and they're trying to cut this thing off at the butt.
You know how many teams would jump at Harbaugh to be their coach and GM in the NFL in a heartbeat?
All right, to another big-name coach, Chip Kelly. This is interesting. After an up-and-down run in the NFL, I love this story. Kelly's now ready to return to the college ranks. Okay, reportedly he's going to decide between the head coaching job at Florida, that's a big boy job, and UCLA, not as big boy, in the next few days. All right, Gottlieb, you know UCLA well.
Yep.
Which school would be the better fit for Chip Kelly?
Florida. Two reasons why. First thing is, the reason Chip Kelly was so hesitant to return to college football is he despises recruiting. That's not what he likes. But I'm not saying Florida recruits itself, but it recruits itself a lot better than UCLA does. UCLA needs a Kevin Sumlin. UCLA needs somebody who go out to LA and get players that are thinking about USC and get them to commit to coming to UCLA. It's more difficult. You have to take calculus in high school or before you get to college. You have to be an actual student. Florida's a bad academic institution.
UCLA's tough.
But UCLA is tougher. So I think that if he hires the right staff, and In the SEC, they have yet to really figure out this whole thing about the forward pass or even the lateral pass.
Right.
You know, there's still a lot of those teams are still LSU's running or tried to bring in an offense this year. Matt Canada, who's throwing the ball around midseason, like, whoa, 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 what's this motion and this forward pass stuff? I think that because there are few teams that run tempo offenses in the SEC, he could come in and take that league by storm. And look who else took that league by storm at Florida. Steve Spurrier, fun and gun. That was a different offense than everybody ran. And then when Urban Meyer came in, yes, they had tons of talent, but it was a different offense than everybody else. UCLA is one of the worst jobs in college football. It's one of the most overrated jobs in college football.
Because the expectations are way up here and the reality is way down there.
Yeah, I mean, the stadium's an hour from campus. It's hard to get the student body there. It's a little bit too big for LA. And oh yeah, by the way, you got to get students, not just student athletes, not just athletes. It's difficult, and you're competing with USC. I like the Florida job.
I like the UCLA job. You go to the SEC, number one. Okay, you're talking about going there and taking it over from Alabama. Alabama's going to get kids from out of Florida, okay? Miami is on its way back up. So you're not going to get South Florida. If the U is humping like it looks like it's going to be and it's turning the corner, those kids, you're not going to get South Florida, okay? You're going to have to compete with Alabama that's getting kids out of South Florida already. If he comes to California, I think he has a very good chance with that offense. I mean, you look at Khalil Tate over in Arizona. You don't think he would have gone and he couldn't run that offense? He could run Chip Kelly's offense. I mean, his offense works.
You have to be accurate. Khalil Tate's a great athlete, but he's a running back.
He's a great athlete, and he can still – I still think you'd be able to find in California, he would be able to find players that could run his offense just like he did up in Oregon. Where are all his players from? California.
And Texas.
I mean, he killed it in Oregon.
And they got in trouble for cheating in recruiting.
Everybody's
well, everyone does that.
I'm with Eric on this without question. You said expectations. You know what Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer did? They said, you better come into Florida and win instantly. Your buddy, Jim McElwain, was there for a minute. UCLA, expectations. One top 10 finish this millennium, guys. Since the year 2000, one top 10 finish. You're competing with the Rams, the Beach, the improving Chargers. As you said, Sam Darnold may return. Nobody's going to talk about UCLA next year. The Lakers are going to get LeBron. UCLA's way down the list. I think Chip Kelly can slide in there, instantly be successful.
Common misconception, though, about the SEC. Yes, Georgia is back, but Tennessee's not. They're in the SEC East. Missouri's in the SEC East. Kentucky's in the SEC East. Vanderbilt's in the SEC East. You're not. No, A&M's in the West.
They're in the West.
They're in the West. So you're not playing LSU every year. You're not playing Alabama and Auburn every year. It's actually right now a time. That's the reason they're moving on from Jim McElwain is they're like, look, the East is as down as it's ever been. You haven't been able to win.
But the problem,
I think he can win more readily at Florida.
But he's not going to. No, because the problem in the SEC compared to UCLA, if you don't win and beat Alabama and compete for championships, you get fired. That's the thing.
But wait.
Instantly.
But hold on. Where has he not won? Even in Philadelphia, the last year was a disaster. The first 2 years, he won 10 games apiece, okay? And when he was in college, when he got to Oregon as offensive coordinator, immediately it turned around. When he was the head coach, they were competing for national championships. I'm not saying what you're saying doesn't make sense, but Chip Kelly doesn't think this is I'm going to fail.
But you guys just said Chip Kelly doesn't
but he's going to. He's going to fail if he goes to the SEC because he's not going to be able to get those players.
You didn't even mention Florida State or Clemson.
Yes.
They're going in and pillaging all the best players in Florida. It's brutal right now.
What's the best fit for Chip Kelly? So it's not about the school, it's about the guy. He's not a Southern guy. He's an academic from New Hampshire that went to a chill state in Oregon and loved it. And then he went to intense Philly and he didn't like it. And by the way, then he actually loved Silicon Valley. Again,
they didn't love him too much, though.
They didn't love him. No. The South is insular. That's why they keep hiring their coaches, even though Orgeron failed. Muschamp failed. They keep rehiring them.
How about the anonymity factor, Colin?
Again, I've heard this.
Muschamp's actually been pretty good at South.
Chip would be a rock star. Chip doesn't want to be a rock star. Chip would love coming to L.A. and being the 7th most talked about coach. Chip wants to drink Coronas and do this all night long, draw up plays.
Without anybody bothering him at the bar.
You coach Florida, you know it is. They're on your lawn. You go to New Hampshire, Oregon, second job in L.A. You can just coach and hide. If it's about fit, Chip works at UCLA. I think Florida would engulf him. He'd feel trapped. He felt trapped in Philadelphia.
But he had dudes at Oregon, had no dudes when he was in San Francisco with the Niners. Players win games, and I think he'd get more players in Florida. We'll see. Apparently he has a Florida deal in his back pocket.